You know, the last time you laughed at a video on your phone,
Oof.
your thumb was probably frozen in place by a microscopic, like, half-second camera shake.
Right, a shake that your conscious mind didn't even register.
Exactly. Well, welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is to look directly under the hood of viral content
Yeah, we are stripping away the whole illusion of organic virality today.
because we've got our hands on this masterclass document covering what the industry calls retention editing. Specifically, it's this highly detailed, step-by-step narrative blueprint for a video about making English language mistakes.
And honestly, digging into this fundamentally changes how you experience social media.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
You realize that your decision to keep watching a video, it isn't an accident at all. It's a meticulously engineered psychological roller coaster.
We tend to think that a piece of content goes viral because it just naturally resonates with people in some, I don't know, spontaneous, magical way.
Well, you just hit the right algorithm lottery or something.
Oh, exactly. But this document reveals the precise visual and audio triggers used to manipulate viewer attention and emotion, literally millisecond by millisecond.
Wow.
Yeah, we're looking at a calculated science of human behavior just completely distilled into video editing software.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Mhm.
Because looking at this source, it's like looking at the blueprints for a casino.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. Like when you walk onto a casino floor, you might feel like you're just wandering around having a good time. But every single flashing light, the pattern on the carpet, the specific chime of the slot machines.
It's all rigorously designed to keep you at the table.
Exactly. And in this blueprint, the battle for your attention starts the literal millisecond the video appears on your screen. The creator allocates the first 3 to 7 seconds entirely to one single goal, which is stopping the scroll.
Yeah, the document explicitly labels those opening seconds as the absolute most important part of the entire video.
Make or break.
Completely. The logic is brutal, but totally undeniable. If you fail to arrest the viewer's momentum in that initial window, the rest of your meticulously planned educational narrative, it just doesn't even exist.
Because the viewer is already swiping away to the next dopamine hit.
Exactly.
So the visual strategy they use to arrest that momentum is completely sensory overwhelming. We are talking about insanely fast cuts mandated at 0.5 seconds each.
Half a second per shot. It's incredibly fast.
Right. So you have the main character, this guy named Rafi, saying something grammatically incorrect like, I did a party.
And immediately, before your brain can even process the error, there's a microcut.
Right. A microcut to a shot of his friend Nabil laughing. But the editor isn't just relying on the cut. The blueprint actually calls for a digital zoom and a physical camera shake effect layered over the footage.
Just to force your eyes to adjust.
Yeah, and it's paired with massive text overtaking the screen that reads, he said this in English, followed by a literal skull emoji.
And the audio strategy layered underneath that visual chaos is equally aggressive.
Oh, the audio's wild.
At the exact moment the grammatical mistake happens, the editor drops in a classic, jarring record scratch sound effect.
Just right in your ear.
Right, followed instantaneously by an artificial laugh track. They are bombarding multiple senses simultaneously to short-circuit the viewer's default behavior.
See, I really have to push back on this approach, though.
Oh, how so?
Well, does this level of extreme sensory overload the half-second fast cuts, the artificial laugh explosions, the screen shaking? Are we just conditioning our brains to expect utter chaos before we can actually absorb any real information?
That's a valid concern.
I mean, it feels like we are frying our own circuits just to set up a joke about verb conjugation.
Well, what's fascinating here is the biology behind why this works. Our brains are incredibly efficient machines, right? They're highly adapted to filter out predictable or monotonous information to save energy.
Because if we notice everything, we'd go crazy.
Exactly. So when you are scrolling through a feed, your brain enters a passive, almost hypnotic state of low-level consumption.
Just sort of zombie scrolling.
Right. And those fast cuts, the sudden visual shake, the jarring record scratch, they act as cognitive speed bumps. They trigger a biological orienting response.
An orienting response.
Yeah, your brain is evolutionarily wired to snap to attention when there is a sudden, unexpected change in your environment. The creator is physically preventing your thumb from swiping away because your brain is forced to stop and process these sudden, unexpected stimuli.
Oh, wow. So the editor is basically hijacking our ancients' survival instincts, like the same reflexes that would alert us to a predator snapping a twig just to make us watch a guy mess up an English sentence.
That is the literal mechanism of the stop scroll moment. It forces consciousness onto a passive viewer.
That is kind of terrifying, honestly.
It is, but once the creator has your attention, they immediately transition into what the blueprint calls the viral core.
The viral core.
Right. And this spans from a 7-second mark to the 2-minute mark. And the explicit goal here is not to educate, but simply to make the audience laugh to aggressively boost watch time.
Right. The document details this relentless barrage of editing tactics to highlight Rafi's mistakes. He says things like, many people's was came, while his friend Nabil just keeps laughing at him.
It's all about extending that comedic setup.
Yeah. And the editor doesn't just let the mistake play out naturally. They zoom in tight on Rafi's face to magnify the error. They draw a bright, animated red circle around him on the screen.
Drawing the eye directly to the embarrassment.
Exactly. They use dramatic freeze frames with text screaming, "What?" with 2 question marks alongside a crying emoji.
The visual semiotics here are designed for instant processing. When the video visually corrects a wrong word, like changing excitedness to excitement, the blueprint demands a giant red X followed by a bright green check mark.
It's like toddler-level visual cues.
Completely. These are universal symbols that require zero cognitive load to understand. Furthermore, the instructions mandate throwing in 1 to 2 second cutaways of popular meme reactions, laying animated emojis over the footage and punctuating it all with cartoon boring and pop sound effects.
But I mean, endless chaos is exhausting. Eventually, the brain tunes out the boing sounds and the bright red circles.
It does. It just becomes background noise.
So how does the creator keep you from swiping away once the sheer novelty of the fast cuts wears off? Like, you can't hold an audience hostage on a roller coaster forever.
You really can't. So they pull a complete tonal 180.
Oh, the pivot.
Right. The blueprint acknowledges that novelty degrades quickly. If you just keep shaking the camera and playing cartoon noises for 5 minutes, the viewer experiences cognitive fatigue and leaves.
They just swipe away.
Exactly. To make the viewer actually value the video, to feel that their time was well spent, the creator must provide genuine edutainment value. So, at the 2-minute mark, the narrative drastically pivots into the learning moment.
It's basically like walking out of a loud, crowded nightclub directly into a quiet library.
That is a perfect way to describe it.
Because the document outlines a rigid stylistic shift here. The background of the video must become totally clean. Every single meme, emoji, and chaotic sound effect completely disappears.
Just vanishes.
Yeah. And the voiceover suddenly shifts from frantic comedy to a calm, clear, authoritative tone. The editor is instructed to use a smooth, slow visual fade, and the audio cue shifts to just a soft, gentle ting sound.
It's so deliberate.
And the screen, very calmly, shows the mistake, did a party, smoothly transforming into the correct phrase, through a party.
The pedagogical reasoning behind the shift is actually brilliant. By removing the visual clutter and lowering the auditory volume, the editor is signaling to the viewer's brain that the danger or chaos is over.
Ah, so we can finally relax.
Right. This creates a safe cognitive space. The reduced cognitive load allows the brain to actually encode the educational information, and that soft ting acts as a subtle auditory reward, reinforcing the feeling of having learned something valuable.
But the blueprint doesn't stop at just being educational. It pushes even further into human connection.
It really does. It goes for the heartstrings.
Right after the learning moment, from 2 minutes and 40 seconds to 3 minutes and 30 seconds, we hit the emotional moment. And, well, I want you to think about the last video you watched, where you found yourself deeply invested in a creator. Did you even notice when the background music quietly shifted to a soft piano melody?
Most people are completely unaware of the auditory environment, but it heavily dictates their emotional state.
For sure.
The instructions here are to change the color grading of the footage, making it slightly darker, adopting a more cinematic tone.
Like a movie.
Exactly. The editing pace slows way down. There is a slow, deliberate zoom in on Rafi, with the background intentionally blurred out.
Right. And the loud, obnoxious subtitles from the chaotic intro are completely gone. They're replaced by very simple, small white text. And the focus zeroes in on a highly vulnerable line of dialogue where Rafi says, "When I speak, everyone laughs, so I feel shy," followed by a single sad, pensive emoji.
And blurring the background there is a crucial visual manipulation. It forces your focal depth entirely onto Rafi's face, removing any environmental distractions.
It's like you're right there with him.
It mimics the physical reality of intense personal eye contact. It tricks your brain into feeling a sense of physical proximity and intimacy with the subject on screen.
And there is a massive pro tip explicitly highlighted in the masterclass document right at this moment. The editor is instructed to use a deliberate, exact 1-second pause of absolute silence right after Rafi delivers that vulnerable line.
Just complete silence.
No soft piano, no voiceover, no background hum, just total, unadulterated silence to create a powerful effect.
You know, silence in a medium defined by constant auditory stimulation is deafening.
It really is.
That 1-second pause creates an emotional and auditory vacuum. It forces the viewer's brain to step in and fill that empty space.
Because we hate dead air, basically.
Right. When you hear someone admit they feel shy because people laugh at them, and then the audio drops out, your mirror neurons fire. You automatically project your own past experiences of embarrassment or vulnerability into that silence.
Wow.
It creates an instant empathy reflex, forging a parasocial bond that transforms a casual scroller into a loyal follower.
But of course, empathy isn't the final destination. Like leaving people sitting in the dark feeling sad about their own insecurities, that does not make them hit the share button.
No, sadness is not a viral emotion at all.
So the narrative has to rebuild the viewer's state of mind. We move out of the emotional depth and enter the motivation and comeback phase.
Exactly the right pivot. From the 3-minute and 30-second mark up to about 4 minutes and 20 seconds, the energy is systematically raised.
Building it back up.
Right. The soft, melancholy piano is replaced by inspirational, swelling build-up music. Visually, we see a transition where the friends on screen go from looking serious and empathetic to smiling, nodding encouragingly at Rafi.
Yeah, and the text pops up on screen, glowing and physically zooming toward the viewer. Mistakes equals learning, accompanied by a bright light bulb emoji, and speak without fear, punctuated with a rocket ship emoji.
It's very uplifting.
It is a total triumphant turnaround. But then, just when you think you're getting a perfectly neat, inspirational TED Talk conclusion, they rip the rug out from under you with a funny ending.
Because the creator knows that while inspiration feels good, humor is the ultimate currency of social sharing.
People want to share a laugh.
Exactly. The algorithm heavily weighs how often a piece of content is sent to another user.
So at 4 minutes and 20 seconds, Rafi makes another grammatical mistake. He confidently says the word fluentliness.
Which is obviously not a word.
Right, and bam, we are instantly yanked right back into the chaotic style of the stop scroll intro. The camera violently zooms in, a massive bass drop sound effect hits, a dramatic freeze frame locks on the screen with huge text reading, "He did it again," accompanied by a massive laugh explosion sound effect.
It is a textbook callback joke, but notice how it is positioned.
Okay, how so?
Well, we have just spent 2 minutes going through a sincere emotional journey with this character, feeling his shame and then his triumph. The callback joke shatters that tension, creating a massive neurochemical release of dopamine.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Because immediately following that laugh explosion, we hit the final 15 seconds of the blueprint. The comment trigger and call to action.
The cash out moment?
Exactly. The document literally states, engagement is the viral key. The screen prompts the viewer with massive text reading, "Your funniest English mistake. Comment below," accompanied by a bright animated arrow pointing directly down to the comment section.
Telling you exactly what to do.
And they even add an incentive. We might feature you next video, with a cool guy emoji wearing sunglasses.
This is where we see the absolute precision of neurological timing. They don't ask you to comment during the learning moment or the emotional moment. They ask you to comment exactly at the peak of the dopamine spike caused by the callback joke.
Because you're feeling good.
Right. Dopamine isn't just a pleasure chemical. It is a molecule of motivation and action. When your dopamine levels are peaking from the laugh, your friction to take an action like typing out a comment is at its absolute lowest.
I have to admit, seeing it laid out like this, it feels almost clinical. Are we just witnessing the death of authentic, organic storytelling? Or is this really just the digital age's hyper-accelerated version of the classic 3-act structure?
It's definitely a structural thing.
I mean, think about it. We've got the inciting incident with the funny mistake, the dark night of the soul where the hero feels shy and defeated, and the triumphant resolution where he learns his lesson. Is this creator just doing Shakespeare, but with bass drops and skull emojis?
You know, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it absolutely relies on the fundamental architecture of classic storytelling. Humans have responded to the hero's journey for thousands of years. What has changed is the velocity and the intent.
Intense.
Yeah, this is classic storytelling weaponized for the algorithmic dopamine economy. The creator is expertly executing an engagement loop. They build emotional investment to retain your attention. They provide an inspirational high to make you feel good about yourself. They reward you with a callback joke that spikes your dopamine. And then before that chemical high dissipates, they give you a physical task to perform.
Commenting.
Exactly. Every single comment generated by that high tells the platform's algorithm to push the video to 10,000 more people.
Okay, so we've mapped out the psychological journey, the emotional highs and lows. But there's a whole other layer to this blueprint that we have to talk about.
Mm.
The deep dive has to shift to the invisible architecture.
The glue that holds it together.
Right. The continuous, subtle, technical elements that hold this entire psychological structure together without the viewer ever consciously noticing them.
We're talking about the editing polish. It is the invisible architecture that separates a piece of content that performs decently from a piece of content that fundamentally breaks the algorithm.
Okay, give us an example.
For instance, the document lists a specific subtitle style as an absolute non-negotiable must-do. You cannot just use standard, small, closed captions at the bottom of the screen.
Like Netflix captions.
No. You need a big, bold font. It specifies an auto-caption style that gives off a distinct, fast-paced TikTok vibe. But the most critical instruction is that you must highlight the keywords in every single sentence in bright yellow or green.
Wait, why yellow or green specifically? Why not just put the words on the screen?
It's all about eye tracking and reducing cognitive friction. When text appears on screen, your brain has to perform work to read it. By highlighting the most important anchor words in high contrast colors like bright mellow or neon green, the editor is physically guiding your optic nerve.
Oh, I see.
Your brain doesn't actually read the whole sentence. It jumps between those colored anchors, instantly absorbing the meaning of the phrase without having to expend the energy to process the grammatical filler words. It keeps the pace of consumption incredibly frictionless and fast.
That makes so much sense. And then there is the sound effects pack. The creator explicitly lists the essential, mandatory sounds that must be woven throughout the edit. Laughs, pops, whooshes, and error sounds.
But there is a huge caveat there.
Yeah, there's a massive, heavily emphasized, bolded pro tip attached to this section.
Exactly.
It dictates strictly, do not overuse them. You have to maintain balance.
Absolutely.
So what does this all mean, if I can use a culinary analogy here? These sound effects are exactly like salt in cooking.
Oh, good analogy.
The whoosh and the pop are just seasonings. If you overuse them, if you dump a cup of salt into the soup, you completely ruin the dish and the audience gags. But if you don't use any salt at all, the meal is bland, flat, and entirely forgettable.
That analogy captures the mechanics perfectly. The invisible architecture relies entirely on that delicate balance. Consider the whoosh sound when a text graphic flies onto the screen. It isn't there to be consciously noticed as an audio file. It is there to give that digital text physical weight, speed, and momentum in your mind. It tricks your brain into feeling like that digital object is interacting with real-world physics.
Wow, yeah.
Or take the error sound, that harsh buzzer when Rafi makes a mistake. It isn't just noise, it's a subconscious signal. It triggers a physical sense of wrongness in your brain before your eyes have even finished reading the incorrect word on the screen. It is a beautifully orchestrated symphony of micromanipulations.
It really is an absolute symphony. So to wrap this all up for you listening, the next time you find yourself entirely absorbed by video, remember this blueprint. Virality isn't magic.
It really isn't.
It isn't a happy accident. It is a highly calculated blend of sensory hooks, educational value, engineered emotional vulnerability, and algorithmic triggers. When you are scrolling and you find yourself locked into a video about English grammar mistakes, you aren't just passively watching content. You're being actively guided through a meticulously designed psychological retention blueprint.
Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway from all of this. We've seen exactly how effectively these rapid-fire, highly polished techniques capture and hold human attention. We know they work. But this raises an important question about the long-term consequences of this kind of consumption.
Right. If our educational content is increasingly packaged with this extreme level of dopamine-driven retention editing, bass drops, constant subtitles, and emotional zooms, how will that change our brain's ability to learn from the real world, where there are no whoosh sounds or yellow highlighted keywords to keep us focused?